Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? I worked for Walmart for 4.5 years. And during that time, not only did I learn more about one of the darker sides of Walmart than I ever really wanted to, but I also learned how a disturbing percentage of American corporations treat their workers. So I worked for Walmart from June 2013 till about December 2017. And during that time, I quickly went from being a regular associate to being a department manager and then to becoming a Cap 1 supervisor, which simply is a person that handles the inventory in the back and tries to get it out to the front. And generally what happens, they promote people that are conscientious and industrious. So I was one of those people, and they say, hey, would you like to make more money and have more responsibility and be more important? And I didn't care about the responsibility or being more important, but the money was good. They didn't tell me till after I said yes that it was less than $1 an hour. Well, during my time at Walmart, one of the things that kept striking me over and over again was this real atmosphere of inefficiency. And they demanded perfection. They had this idea, they told you all the time of exactly how the store was supposed to look, how the shelves were supposed to be filled, all these kind of things, but they gave us almost no resources with which to complete the task. And it was terms of like how many hours we could work, how many staff we could have, the equipment we could have, the scarcity of that equipment, all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking to a friend of mine when I was finally like really fed up, like, why are they doing this? Why don't they see what I can clearly see? And he said, well, they see it. But somebody that makes a lot more money than you, that works really high up in the corporation, has figured out the exact sweet spot for return on investment. When they pay this much for wages, and at that point, with what they're selling, they've hit the sweet spot where they, if they add more resources, they add more hours, they add more employees to get to this perfect state that they're telling you that you absolutely must get it to, then they're actually going to start losing money. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the entire culture of this company was based on deceit and bullying. And what I mean by that is that the managers, they knew that this was the case. They couldn't tell you that, what they were asking you to do was impossible. But they were getting pressure from their manager, and they were getting pressure from their manager. As a department manager, they would take us back in the room, and as a Cap 1 supervisor, I got invited to this happy meeting just about every day, where the store manager or other managers would take us in the back room and tell us. Now remember, these are the top performers in the store. These are the people they promoted because they actually cared and were doing a good job. They would tell us every day that the reason this store looks like crap and that we're not hitting our performance goals is you. It's your fault. You're not performing well enough. You're not getting your staff to perform well enough. It's your fault. You need to work harder. You're not doing it, and we're very disappointed in you. And they would tell us this over and over again. And the thing is, their bosses were telling them that as well. There was a position called an assistant manager in Walmart, and these people were the salaried employees, and they were the grunts. They worked ridiculous hours, and it was insane. And they got beaten up by their managers. The store manager, where I was, in 4.5 years, got replaced 6 times. 6. Because they were not performing well enough. I'll never forget one day the regional or district manager, whatever he was, some guy that thought, was really important, came in and told us this story about how he went to Walmart, the corporate in Bentonville, wherever the heck it is, and they had all the big wigs, all the regional and whatnot managers there. And one guy, one day during this conference, showed up 5 minutes late, and the executives told him he was no longer welcome there. He didn't represent Walmart. He was very disrespectful. You're fired right there on the spot. And he said this like this was something awesome. But, the entire culture was just based on this bullying and shifting the blame, which was clearly, now looking back on the efficiency model. How can we make the most money? And shifting it onto the workers and telling them over and over again, this store isn't up to snuff because it's you. You're the problem. And they would do that not just with us, but with the department managers. They also gave us, like, in any kind of supervisory position, like, no carrot and no stick. I couldn't reward anybody for doing a good job. The best reward I could do for my employees that were doing a good job is what they did to me. I could give them more work. I could say, listen, Jakar, and I forget the other guy's name, Ryan, were my best workers. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry, but I have to give this to you because if I give it to anybody else, they won't do it. It won't get done. And they understood and they knew, but I couldn't give them anything else. And there was no stick. I had many, many employees that were technically working for me or I was supervising that were just slacking off, just disappearing for parts of the day, really weren't doing anything. And, when I spoke to my managers and said, hey, I need some help with this, I was met with a lot of resistance. You figure out how to make them work. And I remember one of the store managers that got fired or moved along was, he told me, like, listen, Ivan, they're making $10 an hour. What do you expect? Well, that's great. That's not helping me right now, man. But it was true. They had a lot of workers that really just weren't, they were quiet quitting a long time before I figured that was a good idea. They were quiet quitting. I was like, listen, I'm not making any money doing this. You're not going to tell me to do whatever. It was hard to get fired, but I did get fired. And I'll tell you how I got fired. This is not a disgruntled employee video. It really isn't. One of the best things that ever happened to me because I just stayed there way past the expiration date. I had what was called 3 strikes, I think, The first one, I went to the family bathroom and somebody had left their phone there. And I really needed to use the bathroom and I wanted to use it in privacy, so I put it outside. And apparently somebody stole it. And so bad on me. And I just didn't want this guy knocking on the door. But they could tell from the cameras. They can tell from everything what happens. The second one was I wasn't really aware of that I had lost my license. It was just that expired, my internal license for using a thing called a walkie stacker, which is like a pallet jack, but bigger and lifts things up in the air. And one of the supervisors, assistant managers, asked me, hey, could you get this pallet down? So I did. That was a strike. And I got called in the office, how dare you do this? And the third one was, they told me, like, listen, your team is underperforming, so you need to get all these 6 pallets of stuff put away. And I tried to get these people to get the stuff put away. And, I was finally having to bin some stuff in the back room. And they pulled me to the back, and the office said, well, the direction wasn't followed. You're out of here. Get your stuff. We're going to walk you to your locker and get you out of here. Just like a lot of them ended up getting booted. So at the end of the day, it was very toxic culture because just based on, making people obedient workers, shifting the blame, but it was based upon deceit and it was based upon bullying. And these imaginary bonuses they would give us, if you're still with me. They kept on telling us about this bonus we might get, and I think it was quarterly. In 4.5 years, I never got one. And the bonuses were based on metrics that we were not allowed to see, that kept on moving, and that could be affected by the performance of the entire store. And so they would tell you as a department manager, make your department the best, drive those sales up, but it was going to benefit you nothing. But they were telling you need to take ownership as if this is your business, because you might get this imaginary bonus that the whole store will get, which we could lose if somebody slipped and fell in the parking lot because it came out of everything. But, one of the things I found as well, though, like in learning about this, is that a lot of other companies function the exact same way. They're based on deceit. They're based on bullying. They're based on what's best for the return on the investment and lying to the people in the corporation. I see this not just in like retail, but in a lot of other companies as well. And all the layers of management have to buy into this. They know they're being lied to, but they have to lie to you in order to maybe have a chance of making their bonus. And this is one of the many reasons I decided to do something else. Not just because I haven't worked for Walmart for a long time, but like I need to get out of this system as a whole. And maybe you do too. What do you think?